Hello, my name's Rachel and I work for Step 2 Young People's Health. This video is part of a series called How to Talk to Your Child About, and this video is about self-harm. Just a trigger warning for the video: if you have experienced this, if your young person has experienced this, please ensure that you are in a safe environment while you are watching it, just in case it triggers any responses from yourself. Make sure that you can practice some kind of self-care to help you afterwards, but please do look after yourselves. Okay, so some things to remember then. Self-harm isn't about being selfish, it's not about being weak, it's not about attention seeking. It is about a young person or an adult self-harm as well, and they are trying to express and to release. There's no kind of knife, blood or cutting fetish involved in this at all. They're not doing it because they're fascinated by the sight of blood. There are other reasons involved. As a parent, I've made many phone calls to parents to say, we have just found out in school that your child is self-harming. It's an incredibly difficult phone call to make, but it's also incredibly difficult for the parent to hear. And something that I have always said to the parent is, you haven't done anything wrong. You've not missed anything. You've not overlooked anything. Your child would have found a way to do this regardless. You've done nothing wrong. Please don't punish yourself for that. It's going to be hard for you as a family. You may want to talk about it. The young person may not want to talk about it. You're probably going to have questions to try and understand it. They may not be in a position to answer them. But it's really important that you get through it together. If you have wider support services such as grandparents and things, don't hide it from them. Bring them into your kind of sphere of support, because at the end of the day you're going to need it as well as your child. Okay, so we'll take a look at some of the reasons why people do it. They might be trying to feel in control. They might be trying or struggling to express some kind of emotion. It might be that their emotional literacy is not as developed as they thought or as you thought, and that they're just generally struggling to say what it is they're feeling. They might feel that they need to punish themselves. They might feel that they've done something bad and that they're a bad person and that they need to do something about that. It could be that they're having some kind of intrusive thought and they feel that this is the only way to release those thoughts. It might be that they don't know who to ask for help, or they don't know how to ask for help. You know, they don't want to go up to somebody and say, I'm having all these thoughts, because they're worried that somebody's going to respond and say, why, are you crazy? They're doing it to release tension, perhaps. So if they're feeling really tight and really stressed, this might help them release some of that tension. Often young people do it when they're dealing with emotional distress and they just have no idea what else to do. There's no other way to calm themselves down, but this releases some endorphins and this works. And in a lot of cases, they might not know why they're doing it. They might have absolutely no idea. They might not understand why it works, only that it does, and therefore they will continue to do it. It's really important to remember though that there could be underlying mental health issues, there very likely are, and that we want people to be able to discuss those. The stigma that drives mental health conditions underground is the reason that so many men take their own lives due to mental health issues, because they don't talk about what's going on for them. Okay, so just some key terms to help you understand. So self-harm is cutting, scratching, biting, picking or otherwise causing some kind of harm to yourself. Suicidal thought are thoughts about what suicide might be like, methods that you might use, any kind of considerations for, well, where or when, or, you know, there might be some kind of consideration of the people left behind, but actually at the time your young person is unlikely to be able to think in that way. And this is where some people think that it's really selfish, but especially in teenagers, their brain isn't fully developed yet and they don't have that ability to put the two sides of the argument together and to reason it through, especially if their mental health is already bad. Suicidal ideation is the actual, I have a plan, this is what I'm going to do, this is when I'm going to do it, this is where I'm going to do it. So suicidal thought, they're thinking about it. Suicidal ideation, they've actually got plans to do it. Finding out that somebody you love is self-harming is always exceptionally difficult. You are going to need to process the information, you are going to need to support your child, but also have support for yourself. It's really important that you communicate with your young person. You know, they might not be up for talking about it, but you need to make sure they know that you're there when they're ready. So it could be that you have the conversation of, I know what's happening, I'd really love some further information about how you're feeling and how this makes you feel. I know you might not be ready right now, but when you are, I'm here. You could go off and you could do some research about it. I'd be careful what you look at on the internet. I would go for mental health charities and look at their information around self-harming and things, so that you know that you're getting accurate professional information. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help around mental health, whether it's yours or your child's, okay? Because it can become pervasive and it can become really difficult. And sadly, we see these really high suicide rates, especially for men, where people have not been able to ask for help or have not understood how to ask for help. So please get yourself some help as well, because this is going to have an impact on your mental health. There are some alternatives and some distractions that can be advised for young people and for adults actually. First, the young person or adult needs to accept and understand why they're doing it. So it could be that every time they feel the need to do it, they get a notebook and a pen and they write down what it is that's caused them to feel like that, the trigger that's made them feel like that. And by doing that, they can look at patterns and they can look at what's going to work. Some young people turn to art and express themselves that way. Your child might not be particularly arty. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody else has to see it. It's not going in the Tate Modern. It might be music. They might play music or they might blast music really loudly through headphones. Either way, whatever works for them. Some people will put an elastic band around their wrist and will sit and ping the elastic band when they've got the urge to cut. And that works quite well because you're still getting that sort of sharp twang against the skin, so your brain's still registering it as a pain response. So it then floods the system with dopamine and other hormones to try and kind of reset those feelings. So it does have a very similar kind of response in the brain, but equally it's not harmful to the person. Another way of releasing those really positive hormones and chemicals is to exercise. Now, I totally understand that exercise is not for everybody, that there are different types of exercise that people will respond to. Some people will go out for a run. Running is really good for your mental health, but it might not be really good for your knees. You know, you might need to find something that works for you. Hitting cushions in the immediacy, yeah, absolutely, that will work. It may not work long term. You may become a bit sort of desensitized to it, so it may be that you need to find something else. But if it works in the short term, go for it. Tear, smash and destroy, so write things down and tear it up, or burn it, or do whatever you need to do to it to help release those emotions. Smash, I'm a little bit more wary of. Some people will get a permanent marker and write on like an old plate or something, not your best ones out the cupboard, but what the issue is, and then go outside and smash it. Obviously they should be doing that with you there, some kind of, you know, parental oversight. They should not be reaching into your kitchen cupboards with a Sharpie marker and writing all over your good casserole dishes and things. But for some young people, that kind of visual representation of my problem smashed into a million pieces is actually very helpful. Challenging your senses can be an interesting one. So this can be something like going for a walk and smelling really strong flowers, or you know, if you've got something in your kitchen cupboards that smells really strongly, you know, like a garlic powder or crushed garlic or something like that, that can work because it distracts your brain, because it's then trying to process this horrendously strong smell instead of dealing with whatever it was that was wanting to self-harm. But there's other senses you can challenge as well. You can have a hot bath. You can, like with toddlers, when they're sitting playing and working out the senses and they're playing with shaving foam and jelly and things like that, even things like that can really work because it completely distracts your brain from what it was doing. There's also delay. Delay is a good recommendation. Don't do it right now. Set a timer for 30 seconds. If at the end of the 30 seconds you still feel you need to harm, then okay, but at least you've waited 30 seconds, and then the next time you wait 45, and then the next time you wait a minute, the next time you wait a minute and a half, and build it up gradually so that actually eventually your brain thinks, okay, it's been 5 minutes, I don't need to do this anymore. Please never ever tell somebody not to self-harm, because that won't help them. That's not a positive solution to anything. They will still go ahead and do it, but it will drive it underground so that they're doing it potentially in more risky situations, or where there's not somebody who could support them if the cutting perhaps goes wrong in any way. So there's some support services here for mainly aimed at young people, but obviously you can get support for yourself through the NHS as well should you need it. You've got Childline, who young people can talk to. There's Young Minds there with a text number, and that's 24/7 support if your young person wants to text and get some help. Kooth is a mental health charity for young people. Again, they've got a range of services that you can check out. Mind, the same, they're obviously a national charity, so you'd be able to get lots of information off their website to help you if you are researching, or they'll give you advice on how to deal with it as a parent. I work for Step 2 Young People's Health in the middle there. We're a sexual health and mental health charity in Bradford, and we offer counselling support to young people in the district. You can also see our social media handles there should you need to get in touch with us, or your young person wants to get in touch with us and ask us questions. We work with James, an independent school, and Hale, a health action charity, and we are providing relationships and sex education lessons across the Bradford district, but Hale also do a lot of other work around health as well. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Like I said, you have done nothing wrong. This is just your child's way of processing. And it may be that working together you're able to find more positive ways of processing the information they're dealing with, or if you're struggling to come up with them and the ones in this video aren't working, please go to these other services. These services are experts in their field and they will be able to help you.